How you doing? I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see all of you at drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today was Liberation Day. Trump says he's going to liberate us with these tariffs, apparently. Um, this ain't Black Liberation Day, though, so I don't expect much liberation happening in the Black community. We don't get our cut of the liberations, but apparently Trump feels that America is being liberated by these tariffs. And so before I get started, do me a quick favor, give me hit the thumbs up button. Also, give me a yes if you can hear me. Quick sound check, microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me? Give me a yes if you can hear me. Also, don't forget this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify, search for my name, Boyce Watkins, and you'll find Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market. You'll also find the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. All right. So here's the deal. So how many of you saw that Trump made these announcements on tariffs today? Apparently, this was a big deal, and Trump, Trump was out here trumping and putting us at risk of a recession. I think that Trump's tariffs announcements are a terrible move. I think that he is at risk of really harming our country long term. I think that these tariffs and the way they're being executed has created a lot of uncertainty in the financial markets, which has caused markets to really suffer. A lot of risk assets have been hit pretty hard, mainly because tariffs generally in a global economy are not a good idea. But the way they're being done is really the issue. It's not just so much that he's protecting the economy or trying to. It's how he's doing it. And so, if you want my critique of all of this, that's what it is. It's not a Democrat or Republican critique. Even if you're a Republican, you should be concerned about what you're seeing. Now, if you want to look at some indicators in terms of what's happening with the markets, I mentioned to you all before that things like gold are good to own during times like this when things are a little bit uncertain. And if you look at the markets right now, you would see that the price of GLD, which is an ETF, I've recommended to you guys. Well, not recommended. Sorry, I don't give investing advice ever, but I did mention GLD, and you can see that today GLD did go up. It went up quite a bit, and this is largely due what 8.9% today, but it's already been going up. It was already going up this week, in this month, and the last 6 months and year to date, it's been going up. And the price of gold has been going up largely because there's a lot of just general uncertainty, a lot of chaos kind of happening right now in the global economy. And when there's chaos, the price of gold goes up. So if you took advantage of that, and I know some of you do, I know a lot of you do pay attention to the assets that we talk about on this platform. Congratulations, you probably made some money, but don't go buy a bunch of gold bars at Costco. I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying that it's the apocalypse. The apocalypse ain't coming. But at the same time, though, there are various places you can put money that will benefit from the chaos. There's always an opportunity somewhere out there. Now moving on with that, with these new tariff announcements, I'm going to give you kind of a breakdown of what was announced. So here are the details. Here are the dirty facts, so you can impress your friends at the next office party or just bore your neighbors with information that seems worthless, but it's actually quite important, quite impactful. So first thing Trump did was he announced a baseline tariff of 10% of all goods imported into the United States. So everything imported into the U.S., they're going to have to pay a 10% tax just to sell in the U.S. He also pointed out certain nations and certain segments of the world that are going to pay higher tariffs. So the European Union is going to be hit with a 20% tariff. China's hit with 34%. Japan's hit with 24%. The UK's hit with 10%. Vietnam, 46%. Holy crap. I don't know what they have against Vietnam, but I got to go find out because that's crazy. They also, foreign vehicles, an additional 25% will be imposed on all foreign made vehicles. So cars made outside the United States are going to be more expensive. What's crazy is that a lot of the automobile manufacturers, their stock prices went down because they make so many of their parts in other countries, right? And so companies like Tesla, though, I think 81% of Tesla's parts are sourced in the United States. So Elon Musk actually was somewhat protected from the tariff. Surprise, surprise, right? sitting next to the president, apparently has some advantages. I'm looking at Tesla stock though, but even Tesla got hit a little bit. They dropped 6.5% after hours. So everybody's kind of being splattered by this machine gun fire that Trump is throwing out there in the form of these tariffs. He's getting real gangster with the rest of the world. They're going to get gangster back. So his gangster is responding to their gangster by pre-responding to their gangster. What he basically said is, if you retaliate against our tariff, we're going to give more of a tariff on you. So if you come back with a counter tariff to our tariff, we're going to add a tariff on top of your tariff. So it's kind of crazy. He's begging them to start a trade war. He's saying, say something. You got the right one. Come on, say something. Say something. You know, and now I wish he would. I wish China would. Right. That's what he's basically doing. He's basically telling other countries, I wish you would. You know, if you bring a tariff back at us, we're gonna hit you with a higher tariff. So this is gonna be interesting, because what this is doing is this is literally shifting the global trade landscape around the world. Like this is shifting. This is an economic regime shift, in my view, that will be remembered 80 years from now. 80 years from now, they'll be saying, remember back in 2025? And they'll be like, well, that was 75 years ago. Yeah, but that decision by Trump on mark the date, on April 2nd, 2025, his Liberation Day, has impacted global trade for the next 100 years. Is it going to be good or bad? Depends on where you stand. Economics is a yin and a yang. So let me break more of this down for you. Also, his justification is that he actually cited this as an economic emergency. He invoked something called the 1977 International Emergency Powers Act to implement the tariffs unilaterally. And so he feels that his argument would be that this is going to boost domestic production. And that's not a completely invalid argument, in the sense that he has created clear incentives for companies to build factories in America, to hire American workers, to make products in America. So what the problem with that, though, is it reduces the degree of integration that we have with the global economy. And as you know, from being Black, the word integration is complex. Sometimes integration is good. Sometimes integration is bad. Integration is like marriage. Is marriage good or is marriage bad? Well, it depends on who you marry. It depends on whether you got a prenup. It depends on who's the giver, who's the taker, who treats who, however, right? So ultimately, the marriage of the U.S. economy with the rest of the world is one that's a mixed bag. It's not one where you could say it's all good or all bad. Globalization didn't help everybody. Globalization did not help everybody. Globalization helped people like you, because I know for a fact that almost 90% of the Black business school students invest in the stock market. So globalization helps you because you have ownership in the very companies that are making money all around the world. So don't get mad. I mean, globalization helped you. But if you go to Gary, Indiana, anybody been to Gary, Indiana lately and seen what Gary used to be versus what Gary is now? Anybody been to Toledo, Ohio? Seen what Toledo used to be versus what it is now? Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Detroit, Michigan, right? When they make products in America, American workers benefit, but corporations suffer, and overall gross domestic product can suffer, because what you're doing is you're cutting down the ability to transfer capital across borders seamlessly. So if you're looking at this as solely a I hate Donald Trump moment, you can have that, sure. But I would try to be a little more nuanced than that, because the argument that America's kind of been sold to the rest of the world, there are some people, there are a lot of smart people who actually agree with some of that. The problem, though, is that overall, on the whole, tariffs of this scale, executed in this way, have been negative on the economy. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, I think that's what it was called in 1930, it was notorious for causing the Great Depression. They put the deep in the word depression. The Great Depression, without that Tariff Act, I think the Great Depression could have been the Great Recession, but they made it into a depression because what they did was they cut off global trade because they were trying to protect themselves so much. But you got to remember that when you protect yourself from your partner is going to protect themselves from you. So when you go in and you fight and you take something away without forgetting about what they can take away from you, it's almost like I'm punching you, but I'm forgetting that you have the ability to punch back, which can create a problem for both of us. Now, do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. We're talking about Trump's tariffs and what they mean for America. And by the way, I have a book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is now, thank you all for supporting the book. We're approaching 100,000 sales in the book. It is the number one Amazon bestseller in the public finance category. And we did this, Black people did this, because we do not have a mainstream publisher. I'm not sitting on a bunch of TV shows. We do not have celebrity endorsements from rappers twerking and none of that stuff. We did it with grassroots intelligent Black people. So if you want to go take a look at the book, feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. You're going to love the book. And also, we got flashcards to go with the book so you can train these principles to your kids and make them wealthy in the next generation. So thank you all for being a part of this journey with us. And we're getting it done. We have 200,000 Black business school students around the world. We're growing every single day because we need to educate ourselves. Ain't nobody going to do it for us. Moving on. So let's talk about what's happening next. So the big issue with this whole situation with Trump and the tariff is that basically when you punch, you can expect a counter punch. So what's happened with the market is that there is uncertainty, largely because nobody knows how they're going to counterpunch. Nobody knows how Europe's going to respond. Nobody knows how Canada's going to respond. Nobody knows how Mexico's going to respond. Every country's going to respond differently. And because of this variation in the responses, and because we don't know how the countries are going to react to this, that adds another layer of uncertainty to financial markets. So this is going to be a crazy stock market for a while. A lot of interesting things are going to happen. I would encourage you that if you ain't about that life, if this volatility scares you, you may want to pack some assets into some safe haven spaces. Some examples I mentioned earlier: a utilities ETF, XLU. That was one I talked about that I think just today. Or this morning, and I think XLU went up. That's a utilities ETF. Utilities are nice, stable, safe investments, and I'm going to share my screen and show you. And I think since we talked about it this morning, it's gone up a little bit. I think that it's not going to make you rich, but it'll protect your wealth and sort of protect you from the gunfire that's going to happen in the markets, because the market's going to be extremely volatile over the next few weeks, in my opinion. And so XLU went up, and that was to be expected because XLU is something where there's stability, and it's what they call a safe haven asset. Safe haven assets are the assets that people purchase, investors purchase when they want to sort of get away from the drama, get away from the chaos. So you may want to consider adding some of that to your portfolio. This is not investing advice. This is just me sort of giving you my 2 cents on that. The next thing that I want to mention on this is that if you want to look for other safe haven assets, I've mentioned Procter & Gamble as a place that you may want to look at. Also Kellogg, their ticker symbol is K, not KKK. So don't be getting scared. Don't get racially triggered. It's just a K. And so they're not going to kill all the Black people. They're just going to poison your kids with like sugary food. But anyway, I'm kidding. I'm being stupid. If you go and you look at Kellogg, that's considered to be another safe haven asset that you can feel free to explore if you're looking for ways to make money during this unstable, uncertain economy. Because what they're doing is they're steadily adjusting down the GDP expectations going into 2025 and 2026. And it's all linking back to this uncertainty created by Trump. Now, with that said, in terms of what's happened with the major indices and what sort of the reaction has been, first off, most of the market indices are down. Since the Trump tariff announcements were released, most of the stock markets have actually gone down. And I think the NASDAQ went down. If you look at some of the tech stocks got hit really hard with these tariffs. And I'll show you on my screen, Nvidia, for example. Nvidia is kind of a flagship for the tech stocks, and Nvidia has been getting its butt kicked pretty bad lately. Let's pull that up on the screen. Let's look at Nvidia. A lot of you asked me about Nvidia. I did not buy any Nvidia. The only Nvidia I own is the Nvidia that our oldest son convinced me to buy many years ago, back when Nvidia cost 2 nickels in a bucket of pig's feet. I bought it back then. I bought Nvidia while it was cheap. We made a ton of money on Nvidia because we did not know that it was going to take off like that. Since that time, I've been scared of Nvidia, nervous about investing in it, because Nvidia is the bubble that's waiting to burst. Nvidia's got so many risk factors That is ridiculous. So if I was investing in Nvidia, at the very least, I would have some put options in place to protect my investment just in case that stock starts to do some of the terrible things that it's capable of doing. Nvidia is a really highly valued company, which makes it a very risky company. But if you see here, if you look here, you can barely see it, but it's right there on the screen. If you look at after hours, that red, anything that's red usually means that the numbers went down. So if you go down here to the red on Nvidia, you'll see that it's down 5.1% after hours. And that's because Nvidia is one of the companies that's going to get hit really hard by the tariffs. And the Chinese don't play. The Chinese are really aggressive with their economics. The Chinese will, they're going to retaliate. They will, and no telling how they're going to do it. They'll open investigations against the offices of American companies that are in China. They might detain important people at the airport. They may, in fact, I don't know if y'all remember this. This is to tell you how gangster the Chinese government is. Does anybody remember when LeBron James has been very outspoken. He's an activist, right? He has a lot to say about a lot of issues. And he doesn't let anybody tell him to shut up and dribble. I have a lot of respect for him for that. But does anybody remember when they asked LeBron specifically about China and what they're doing in Hong Kong, what they did in Hong Kong? Does anybody remember that? When did anybody remember what happened in Hong Kong? How many of y'all remember that? Well, let me tell you what happened in Hong Kong about maybe 4 years ago, I guess. There was a 99-year lease that the British had, that the British had given to China. Or no, the British had a 99-year lease on Hong Kong where they controlled Hong Kong for 99 years and were supposed to give it back to China after 99 years. I have no idea why they would do this to millions of people. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, so here's what happens. So after the 99 years ended, a lot of the people, and by the way, I want to mention this. Thank you, Bertina. I made a mistake. Bertina pointed that out. Kellogg's ticker is not K, it's KLG. KLG. My apologies for that. Let's get back to China and Hong Kong. Thank you for pointing that out. So basically, so they were going to give Hong Kong back to China, and the Chinese don't run their government the way the British do. So the Chinese, the people in Hong Kong knew that democracy was going to go out the window. Like, for example, you can't write news articles that are critical of the government in China. They will throw you in jail for that. So they protested like crazy. They had millions of people in the streets. And the Chinese literally went up in there and just were arresting everybody. They shut that stuff down. And they used COVID as an opportunity to do that, which to me speaks to this conspiracy theories that maybe they actually wanted the pandemic to hit because it gave them a reason to take people off the streets, and they just shut that stuff down. They run their country with an iron fist. So if you remember when they asked LeBron, they said, "So what do you think about the people in Hong Kong having their democracy stolen from them?" And LeBron didn't say anything. LeBron was like, "Well, I don't want to get involved. I don't." And the reason LeBron didn't want to get involved is because he knows that if he goes to China to play basketball, which he probably would, because they love basketball in China. They love basketball in China more than they love in the U.S. When I taught in China many years ago, all the boys play basketball, and they have Kobe Bryant on the big screen in the cafeteria, and every single one of them play basketball. But they were terrible basketball players. I used to just, I thought I was Michael Jordan on that court. They were no good at it, but they all love basketball. So LeBron knows. Here's what LeBron knows. LeBron knows that if he pisses off the Chinese government, he might be the next Brittany Griner. He could literally have become the next Brittany Griner. I believe that. I believe LeBron knows not just that he would lose, a lot of money, and the NBA would lose a lot of money, but don't get caught slipping. Don't think you're gonna just roll up into Beijing or Shanghai and not have a problem getting detained at the airport for some unspecified reason, because the bigger the fish you are, the more they want to detain you. They're not scared of the big fish. They like the big fish. They literally detained for 6 months and didn't tell anybody what they were doing. For 6 months they detained one of the biggest stars in all of China, and they didn't tell anybody where she was. Everybody thought she was missing or had been killed or something. No, she was in a Chinese jail, and they were forcing her to apologize for something that she did on social media. So it was crazy. So the Chinese government doesn't play. So long story short, they're going to retaliate. That's my point. The tariffs against China are the highest. They are the craftiest when it comes to economic warfare. They are the ones that are probably most prepared to negotiate with Trump, because they're very polite people, but they ain't scared of nothing. They will fight you. So that's the part of the trade war that's going to be interesting, because we supply a lot of stuff from China. We get a lot of stuff from China. So I don't know how that's going to play out. That's going to be really messy and ugly. Anyway, so do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Also, I hope you guys will consider learning stock options from us in the Black Business School. We have a great network, coin certified options investing network, where you can get a certification in stock options. We're in week 4 of a 12-week class, and we start another sequence in about 8 weeks. So if you want to talk to someone about joining coin, you can just go to drboycecoin.com and do an interview and see if it's something that would work for you and your family. And also, last but not least, we have financial workbooks and flashcards for kids. If you want to teach investing to your kids, we have workbooks for every grade band that covers stocks, investing, etc. We're going to make some for real estate, stuff like that, since you guys asked for it, crypto. So if you want to take a look at those, you can go to financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. All right. So, and I want to give a shout out. I saw Tiara in there, Tiara Williams. Tiara's, she runs the Fly Nubian Money Club. So good to see you, Tiara. And I hope I'll put the URL on the screen so everybody can sort of take a look at what you're doing over at Fly Nubian Money. The ladies are really smart. We need to listen to smart Black women. I really believe that, and that's a core value that I've always had. And so, so I'll put the URL on the screen in case you guys want to go and support what the ladies are doing at Fly Nubian Money. Constance Carter, Dr. Lene Javette, Dr. Alicia, my wife, etc. All right, so here, so let's dig back into this Trump tariffs in terms of what that means and what's really going on with that. So basically, things like gold and stuff like that are those safe haven assets that you may want to consider looking at. It's not too late to invest in those things. Again, not investing advice, but just me sort of sharing with you what I'm observing here. Let me show you something also. Right now, consumer sentiment and investor sentiment have both been hit pretty hard. Sentiment is something that's really important to measure because it basically tells you how confident are investors right now when it comes to taking risks. Do they feel like taking risks? And the VIX, which is what they call the fear gauge, is how they measure that. So right now, the VIX has been going up. It's at 21.5. That's not the highest it can go, but that's pretty high. And you look at the last 6 months, green means it's going up, basically. So it's gone up 13% in the last 6 months. Year to date, it's up 19%. Over the last year, it's up 47%. It's gone up 47%. So if you go back a year ago, it was down at 14.6. So a year ago, everything was cool. Everything was chill. You know, it's like smoking weed or something. I don't smoke weed, but I imagine weed makes you relaxed. Well, here now we're in the crack era. We don't hit New Jack City, Nino Brown, you know what I mean? Like literally the crack era is like where we're on, the tensions are high. Everybody's nervous. Right here it was super high. Oh my God, look at that. I got to go look at and see what happened that date. But here, basically, you're seeing that it's going up, but it's not at its peak. It's not the highest it's ever been. In fact, you look at the last 5 years, the VIX has actually gone down. So we're actually more chill now as investors. There's less fear of volatility now than there was even 5 years ago. So investors, it's interesting when I hear experts kind of break down how investors are reacting to the Trump chaos that's been artificially inflicted on the economy. One concern they have is they feel like investors just don't believe it's as bad as it's actually going to be. Like they don't believe that they're oblivious to the risk, right? And this is the risk that you take when you guys know I'm a dip buyer. I buy the dip. I buy the dip because I'm a long-term investor and I'm really thinking about what's this economy, what's this market going to look like in 5 or 10 years. I know the data. That's all we did when I was on the faculty of Syracuse. We would analyze data. So the data says that if you are able to relax and calm your nerves and woosah your way through these bad moments, in 10 years, your portfolio will be worth more than what it is right now. That's the data, right? So if you listen to the data, my camera went out, but I'll keep talking as if that didn't just happen. Now the other camera came on, and that's not even the right camera, but that's okay. At least you can see me. Now you get to still look at my handsome face until the other one starts working again. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so ultimately, the data pretty much says that if you follow certain specific rules of investing, like you have a diversified portfolio of healthy, high quality stocks, that in 10 years, usually typically even 5 years, you're going to have more money than you had before. But it's conditioned upon you having healthy investments in a wide array of good companies. So that's why I buy dips, because of that. But the thing about dips is you don't know how long they're going to last, and you don't know how deep they're going to be. So you might buy the dip because the stock went down 5% or 10%, but you don't understand that maybe God has a plan for this stock market that you didn't know about. And the plan might be for this stock to actually drop 20% 20%, 30%, 40%. So you're dip, baby, dip, and you keep on going, and it can get very demoralizing after a while, and kind of nerve-wracking to actually see your wealth drop by 40, 50% or whatever the case may be. So be really careful about just sort of automatically knowing that buying the dip is going to work. The other thing about buying the dip is not only do you not know how long they're going to last, you don't know how deep the dip is going to be, and you don't know which stocks the buy the dip model is going to work for. You might be focused on a stock thinking, I'm just going to keep buying the dip because it's going to dip and eventually it's going to come back and everything's going to be great. No, that does not apply to every single stock. That rule applies to portfolios of stocks. Let's stop here. Let's pause on this. Do we understand the difference between an individual stock and a portfolio? Give me a yes if you understand this. This is a critical rule of investing. You cannot get into investing thinking that you're putting all your energy, your emotional energy, and your financial energy into one stock. A portfolio is not a stock. A portfolio matters. Black portfolios matter. Black stocks don't. Don't get caught up in one individual stock, or that's how you risk losing everything, because companies go bankrupt, but entire portfolios don't. You'll never have a portfolio of tech companies where every single one of those tech stocks goes to zero. But individual companies do it all the time. So just keep that in mind, right? So remember, portfolios is what you pay attention, not individual stocks. This ain't Vegas. This ain't the casino. This ain't your grandma's lottery ticket, okay? So anyway, with that said, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. I'm going to, so we're talking about Trump's tariffs and what's going on with that. I'm going to give you a few more quick notes on this so you can kind of have some talking points if you want to kind of analyze it. So as I mentioned earlier, he put a 10% across the board tariff on all countries, 20% for Europe, 34% for China, 10% for the UK, 46% for Vietnam, 34% for China. Also, in addition to that, right now, in terms of sectors hit the hardest, the automotive industry pretty much got its butt kicked by the tariffs. They're pretty upset. 25% tariff on imported vehicles. That doesn't just affect foreign car makers, that affects domestic car makers. So right now, they're all making deals with the Trump administration to do more production in the United States, most likely. And what's really interesting to me, though, is that even domestic producers were hit by the tariffs because they make so many of their parts overseas. So they might say made in America, but made in America doesn't really mean made in America. That's one of the big challenges. The manufacturing sector, tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, that can actually benefit domestic steel and aluminum producers. But the problem is that these industries rely on a lot of inputs, and it takes a really long time, from what I understand, to start making aluminum in the United States. It's not something you can do overnight. And also the tech sector got hit pretty hard because they have a lot of components that come from overseas. You'd be amazed if you go through the whole process of how long it takes to just, make like the microchips and all that stuff. It's really kind of crazy how much time and how many different parts are in there and how many crazy precise machines they need to make it. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, in addition to that, the last thing I will mention here is that in terms of possible winners, what's interesting is that companies like Nucor, NUE is Nucor's ticker. I think we talked about Nucor. I think we might have. I might own that. I got to double check. Nucor and Cleveland Cliffs, CLF, they may benefit because they do a lot of domestic production. Apparently, also Deere and Company, agricultural equipment makers, they may benefit. If you have farmers buying more domestically made equipment, John Deere apparently makes stuff in the U.S., stuff like that. And I mentioned to you all that that gold GLD actually went up. And we talked about gold. We talked about it many, many times. Gold isn't something that will make you rich, but gold will protect your wealth. So if you're worried about what's going to happen going forward, you may want to consider adding some gold to your portfolio. So ultimately, what I will say is that, if you look at the overall impact of Trump's announcements, you will see that, yes, he did actually, kind of ruin things a little bit. He is going to cause some problems. At the same time, we don't know exactly how deep this is going to go, because this was kind of the first stage of a multi-stage process. And if any of this devolves into a trade war, this is going to have both short and long-term implications, because the short-term effects are massive in terms of stock markets and all that, and the cost of it, and also inflation. I forgot to mention inflation. Inflation is going to be a big one. But then there's the longer-term conversation of, number one, disrupting long-held trade relationships that have been around for 100 years. I don't know if that was thought through entirely. And then number two is some of the stuff that he wants when he talks about why he's imposing the tariffs, when he says these companies are ripping or these countries are ripping us off, and I want to be able to make America rich again. Well, if a company comes along and let's say that they agree, like, okay, look, we'll build a factory in the United States and we'll make products in the US so that we can avoid the tariffs. How long does that take? I mean, how long does that take? It takes forever. When you talk about stuff like microchips and all, it takes forever to build those plants. That's really hard. It takes automobile manufacturers. It takes years to do that. So by the time they're done, he won't be president anymore. He may not even be alive anymore. The man's, the man. He talked about Joe Biden being an old man. I don't think he's that much younger than Joe Biden. So the question becomes like, what's this going to look like? It's like we veered way to the left. And then what I see is that if you get another president in office, like a Democrat next time, all they're going to do is they're going to veer everything back to the right. And so we're on the ship and we're getting seasick. Everybody's vomiting because the ship is being pushed really hard in one direction or the other. And that to me is a flaw of American politics. And I think that's something that is worth thinking about, worth considering. But anyway, so I'm going to head on out, guys. If you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, let's give a shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson. He's the GOAT of economics. He's the GOATiest GOAT of all time. Without him, there is no Boyce Watkins for sure. His books are amazing. We've been reading these books as a group in our book club every Wednesday night for many years. Those of you who are wondering why the book club meeting was canceled today, it's because I thought I'd have to hit the road now, but I didn't. But I'd already canceled it. I had to get some copies of my book so I can sign them and send them out to you. And we were waiting for the shipment to come in. So because I know a lot of you ordered the books and thousands of you have ordered, and we still got a lot of orders to fill. So I had to stay here for that. And the shipment just came in. So I'm going to go and sign your books and make sure everybody gets what they asked for. And also, if you want to go into business with us, I want to put more money in your pocket, and I'd love to support the school at the same time. So we have something called a Black Wealth Ambassadors Group that you can be a part of, where you can buy any book that I offer, any flashcards, workbooks, the things that we create in the school. You can actually buy them at a deep discount wholesale price, and you can offer them to people in your family, people in your community, people at your job. You can form a Black Wealth book club. I want everybody in our community to know the power that we have to educate ourselves and each other. I don't believe that we need to go to to other folks to get educated. I don't believe that we need them to build schools for ourselves. We need to have our own schools, but we don't have the same capital base. So we can't go build a $10 million building, but you got $10 million worth of love, right? You have $10 million worth of motivation. You have $10 million worth of value, human capital in your family. Your children are precious and valuable. And so my view is that we should educate right where we stand. That has to be a core value in our community. So that's why we set up the Black Wealth Ambassador space. So literally, if you see that we have stuff that you like, I mean, again, don't do it if you think it's garbage. But if you like what we offer, like you like my book, you like the flashcards, you like the workbooks, then we welcome you to go into business with us. We want you to make money. So if you text the word wealth to 87948, we'll send you really deep dive exclusive discounts. You can order books for your events. You can take them to church and offer them to people and maybe do a training on it. You can even take my video, play it at your church. And then after it's done and everyone's like, I want to get that guy's book. Well, you're the supplier. You supply him, right? Right. So let's build an economy around Black wealth, Black power, focusing on our people. That's what we need to do. We need to focus on ourselves and build within ourselves. I ain't worried about what everybody else is doing. I'm worried about building the Black economic revolution for the 21st century and beyond. And this is how we getting it done. So if you're interested and you want to be a part of that, text the word wealth to 87948. You'll hear from us very, very soon. And we'd love to invite anybody that wants to participate. All right. So anyway, have a great day, everybody. Thank you guys for listening. What do y'all think about y'all like my team made me do the studio change, and they were like, we need to switch up your background a little bit. Y'all like it? Y'all, we took a vote this morning, and most of you liked it better than what we had before. So, is that good? I'm trying to get jiggy with it or something. I don't know. You like it? Okay, good. All right, then I'm gonna stick with it and show up in the best form I can. So you'll hear from me again soon. I'll keep you posted on what's happening with this Trump tariff thing. This is gonna be big. This is gonna be they're going to be talking about this probably for the rest of the year, right? So it's going to be he's He's something, man. He's something else. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you guys for watching, and hit that thumbs up button on the way out if you can, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.